You're watching this video, you were trying to figure out how to write a thesis statement like the original ones that I taught you, where we have this format in name of the poem, the poet's name uses some kind of literary device to show something within the poem itself, therefore suggesting some kind of implication, right? So if you're wanting to continue using this thesis, I thought I'd make a video to show you how to use it. So when I'm doing this thesis, I like to make sure that I've done some really thorough annotating. Keep in mind that you need to have read this poem before we begin, so if you haven't read the poem which is attached to the video, please do so. Um, anyway, so I've only annotated half of it just for the sake of time, and I think it'll be enough for my demonstration here. But what I need you to understand is that after annotating, the first thing that I do is I look for some kind of overarching literary device, which is going to be different in all poems, right? This poem just happens to start with some kind of simile that actually turns into an allegory, right? So I want to make sure that I write that. In title of the poem, I will write the title later. Keith Douglas, and I know it's by Keith Douglas because all commentaries and passages have the name and the author of the poem down, at least the author of the poem down here. Keith Douglas uses a simile which transitions into an allegory, comparing the white stone to a sensual white woman amidst a school of fish who are representative of men who incidentally are not white. And this is just unpacking the thesis, right? So I've taken care of this part right here. Okay, so that part's done. Now I need to figure out this part. And actually, I don't know this part yet. I think I know what my therefore suggesting is, because as I was reading this poem, I was noticing some really great concepts, not about prostitution, that was from another group, but specifically about beauty. I know that it's in an Egyptian tea garden. I know that it's trying to emphasize the white stone and the whiteness of the woman. The Egyptian piece makes me think that the men that are watching her are not white, right? And so this is making me think specifically about beauty, specifically about who is attracted to what kind of beauty, and how maybe that this white stone is only beautiful because of its whiteness, right? So what I want to say is I'm going to go straight to my implication, therefore suggesting that the purity often seen in conventional white beauty is false and unattainable, specifically to those who are not white. So I've arrived at the first part and the second and the third part of my thesis, and I have to bridge the gap, right? And this is important. I've noticed that many of you don't include the bridge between these two things, so you need to make sure that you are incorporating some kind of bridge, right? Remember that we have to figure out, well, what is being shown here, okay? So I might have to think about, okay, so what is it about the comparison between the white woman, the white stone, and the school of fish, who are described in sort of a negative way to get to here, right? And so something I might say, if I'm looking at this, is that he uses this simile, uses a simile comparing the white stone to a sensual white woman amidst a school of fish who are representative of men, in order to demonstrate the pure disruptive beauty this stone has amidst a pool of negatively connoted fish. Therefore, and I'm going to tweak this, suggesting that the purity often seen in conventional white beauty is false and unattainable, specifically those who are not white. So let's look at this. Does it flow? In Keith Douglas, in Behavior of Fish in a, what is it called? Behavior of Fish in an Egyptian Tea Garden, Keith Douglas uses a simile which transitions into an allegory comparing the white stone to a sensual white woman amidst a school of fish who are representative of men, who instantly are not white, in order to demonstrate the pure disruptive beauty this stone has amidst a pool of negatively connoted fish, therefore suggesting that the purity often seen in conventional white beauty is false and unattainable, specifically to those who are not white. Okay, that flows. I've made some kind of connection between something that is going on in the poem itself all the way to this particular implication, right? So what's really important to understand when you're making these thesis statements is, one, identify the specific literary device or the overarching literary device of the poem. And that means that just because you identify it doesn't mean that's the only lit device you're going to talk about. I've talked about simile here, but there's imagery, there's diction, there's all kinds of things being used to support this particular simile, right? Secondly, I step back and think about the overall implication of the entire poem. And that's going to allow me to come to some kind of implication. The last step is to make the bridge between part 1 and part 3. And if we're logically suggesting that the first part, that we're seeing something in the first part and this literary device doing something and it leads us to the therefore, we need to make sure that we're making that bridge, which is right here. Okay, this is the to show part. Alright, so we have to make sure that whatever you're doing, you have to do this particular bridging between the two, because I'm seeing a lot of thesis statements that actually get rid of this, right? And it's like, well, how do you see the fact that the white stone doesn't, the white stone and the fact that these men are fish, it doesn't necessarily represent what this says, right? I need some kind of bridge between the two. Okay, so keep those three things in mind. And that will hopefully allow you to make sure that you're achieving, okay, I don't know, that's a weird alien surprise. That will allow you to, I don't know what it is, why it keeps coming back. It's a virus. Okay, I don't know what happened to my middle part. Anyway, that's how you, there it goes. Sorry about that. Making sure you guys are keeping up with me. If you want to watch how to do an outline for this particular thesis, watch the next video. Thanks.